everyone, and welcome to the second Generation Liberty Forum. My name is Renee Gorman, and I am the National Manager of Generation Liberty. I am joined by three amazing IPA campus coordinators today, Kyle, Laura, and Luca, and I'm also joined by a special guest. So this is going to be an exciting show. Let's get some viral banter going. So my first guest today is a familiar face. Please welcome back to the show, Laura Glase, the campus coordinator at the University of Sydney. Hi, Laura.
Hello. Hi, Renee. Thanks for having me back.
You're looking like you're in an English garden, as always.
Always. Got to be consistent. I put my fairy lights on this time. I didn't have them on last week. And like mid-show, I was like, it's going to be too weird if I put them on in the middle of a show. So they're on now.
Well, thank you for providing a feminine touch, as always. And another familiar face back on the show, please welcome the YouTube sensation and campus coordinator at Monash University, Luca Rossi. Hi, Luca.
Hi, Renee. Thanks for having me back. I don't have any fairy lights, unfortunately, but we'll deal with it.
And our last campus coordinator is a new face to the show, but not a new face to the YIPA podcast or Talking Liberty. His name is Kyle Williams, and he is the campus coordinator at Murdoch University in WA. Hi, Kyle.
How's it going? Happy to be here with you all.
Cool. And our very, very special guest, Warren Wang, was actually one of the first speakers at one of my events. When I was a campus coordinator at Sydney University, he spoke at an event called The Dangers of Socialism. Warren is a Chinese immigrant who is a very vocal advocate for liberty, and he's very vocal in his contempt for socialism, as his personal experience and his family experience in China has showed him. So I am so glad to have you on the show, Warren. Hi, Warren, how are you?
Hi, hello everyone.
Kyle, you're actually in WA, so first off, it's earlier over there, but your restrictions aren't as harsh in your state. The only thing that you have is the border's closed, so we can't get to you. But how is it in WA?
Yeah, look, I saw a bird on Monday, so I reckon I'm having a better week than you guys. It's been good to have less restrictions. Obviously, we don't have the number of cases that you guys have in New South Wales or in Victoria, so it does mean that we can be a little bit lighter or the government can have a lighter hand in how it approaches this. There's a little bit of talk about trying to reopen things before you guys can, so I think that's been very good, but it's all touch and go right now.
Cool. And Warren, how are you going in lockdown? I know you're a young father. You had a baby boy last year in June, was it?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, last June. Yeah, good memory. Yeah.
So how's lockdown with the baby and the family?
It's all right. Well, for me myself, I'm working from home, and my main job is mortgage broker. So I actually got used to work from home, so not too bad. The only thing is I can't meet clients or lenders face to face, but other than that, it's not too bad. And the baby is 10 months old now, and luckily at this stage he doesn't need to go out all the day, so not too bad at the moment. Yeah.
The good father-son bonding time, it sounds like as well.
That's right.
So Warren, we started this podcast to talk with our coordinators, but also talk to them during this epidemic, during this crisis. Yep. What is your personal opinion about how the Chinese government has handled this crisis?
Well, I think the Chinese government handled the WHO way better than handling the crisis. I think for the crisis, they handle it in a way that all authoritarian regimes would do. They cover up the truth. They silenced doctors who wanted to warn others, and there are no free media, no investigation. And I think the Chinese government treated people as means to achieve their own ends. So this hasn't been changed since the beginning of the communist regime.
And what are your thoughts on Trump saying that he's going to remove all funding from WHO?
Yeah, I think it's great to see Donald Trump defending defunding WHO. But in the meantime, yesterday I saw the news that Scott Morrison, Australia doesn't seem to want to follow what America is doing. So for WHO itself, I think it clearly shows its true color during this crisis. You can never even found just one word from WHO criticizing China. They have defended China all the way, and they have acted, I think, merely as a puppet of the Chinese government. In terms of Taiwan, I think the world, or to be more specific, I think the West mistreated Taiwan and inappropriately showed its favor to Mao's China since decades ago. This is not an isolated issue. I hope all the countries, especially Western countries, can recognize Taiwan as it is. And well, practically, I think we should at least treat Taiwan as an independent territory, if not an independent country.
Oh yes, I totally agree, Warren. And
Yeah.
Luca, do you have any thoughts on the WHO issue and also how the Chinese government has been handling this crisis?
I just think it's proven that with the Chinese government, there's a lot of shady things going on in the background. Let's just put it that way. It's quite clear that there's been underreporting from the get-go, that we haven't been able to rely upon their information. And it also shows that they're quite unwilling to change, because I've seen on the news and things like that the wet markets are reopening, running just as they always did, the places where it's thought to have originated. And I understand there was even rumors that it was America that started the coronavirus, just trying to shift away the blame from where it truly lies. And I think it's just proven that China's doing a lot of shady things, and we and the world can't trust them, both politically or even economically at this point.
So we've been talking about China's influence on our governments and also how they've dealt with this crisis. But Kyle, do you have any thoughts on the influence of China at Australian universities, and if that is a possible problem for students around the country?
Around the country, definitely. From my own personal experience at Murdoch, the biggest issue we've had hasn't actually been related to the CCP. It's been related to international students and the way the universities dealt with that. For a lot of people on the other side of the country wouldn't have followed this. About halfway through last year, off the top of my head, there were reports that started coming out, largely backed by the NTU, that international students at Murdoch were lacking the computer and English skills that they actually needed to complete a degree, but were being passed by the university regardless in their courses, and the university was pushing academics to pass them, even when it was cases where there was a student who showed up to class who obviously could not speak English, but then submitted an essay in perfect English, or they went into an exam, and according to the NTU, there was an exam that had to be delayed because international students within it were collaborating with each other and refused to stop doing so when the exam coordinator told them to. There was actually a lawsuit towards an academic to try to point that out on Four Corners, which was resolved earlier this year when Murdoch dropped the case. So in terms of CCP, not really, but I think that does illustrate the financial reliance that a lot of Australian universities have on international students right now, including from China, and the willingness of a lot of these universities to drop their values, their academic integrity and the like in order to access that money.
And Warren, so you were an international student, so you were on the inside. Can you tell us about your experience, or what are your thoughts also about what Kyle, Laura, and Luca are saying?
Yeah, I pretty much agree with all have been said, and I think definitely it's worrying in Australia. And this morning, I saw the news from the Australian that a student activist who has campaigned against I think the University of Queensland's tie with China is now facing expulsion. So this is imaginable, I think. And also, I think it's obvious that the CCP is having a growing influence in Australian universities via its financial support, or so-called cooperation programs. Another worrying thing is that I found myself quite isolated among international students. I mean, a few years ago, as a vast majority of them, they have a very strong favor of CCP, while ironically, they want to migrate to Australia. So this is something very worrying, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I also know from experience, my husband was a tutor and taught students and taught international students, and also sat through many classes, and having international students saying, oh, I don't want to say that, or I can't say that because it might be reported back to my country of origin, which is just so Orwellian and scary, because it's like, okay, you're reporting back what your fellow international students are saying, but are you also reporting back what I'm saying or what my fellow students are saying and everything that's going on? So that is a little bit concerning. But as I said at the beginning, we are all still in lockdown, and we might all be getting a little bored, but I just wanted to know from all of you, have any of you picked up a new hobby? Are you exercising more? Are you cooking more? Are you spending more time with family? Is there anything that you've actually had time for that you didn't have time for in the past? So maybe start with Kyle.
Yeah, I thought, well, I saw you guys were talking last week about the potential of a lockdown to try out a new look, you know, put highlights in your hair or something like that. So I got inspired and I thought I would grow a beard out, as you can all see.
I actually quite like the beard.
Yeah, it's funny, man. I had a talk with my friends like last Friday. I had about 6 of them. I had one of them say they like the mustache but not the beard. Another one say they like the beard and not the mustache. I had one of them who spent about 2 minutes asking me if it was actually real, if I was just having her on. Everyone else hated it. So
I don't think you can get rid of the mustache and not the beard because you just look army.
Yeah, that looks terrible, I know. I think it's going okay.
I like
you guys noticed before the thing where I was sort of going side to side. I think I sort of noticed it looks a little bit thicker on that side than that side. So it's a bit of a
yeah, you just got to give it time. It'll grow. It'll grow out. It'll be fine. And Laura?
For me, it's been more, I've decided that I want to start doing things, but I just haven't really done them yet, which is concerning because I have all the time in the world to do it. I have been spending a lot more time with family, which has been really nice. And, you know, just things as simple as having dinner, you know, sitting down, watching Netflix, watching some movies with them, or just having really good chats, which has been really nice. And it's interesting because you don't realize, I guess, how little you did that or how much you missed it when you know, until you're in a situation where you're doing it so much. So yeah, no, it's been nice. It's been helpful.
And Luca?
See, I've kind of put my mind to kind of one or two things rather than trying to do a whole bunch of things, because I've been playing piano since I was like really young, like 4 or 5, and then I kind of got sick of that. And then a couple of years ago, 3 years ago, I picked up the drums, having done, you know, piano, A&B exams. Any musicians, you guys can relate. And then I picked up the drums because I thought, you know what, why not? And then now, seeing as we're in lockdown, jumped on Gumtree, bought a cheap guitar and a small amp, and just been playing around with that and trying to figure out this whole guitar thing. And gotta say, it's quite. I can definitely see why a lot of people play guitar or why it's a principal instrument. It's definitely very enjoyable, very, very enjoyable.
I did 8 years of vocal training, and I have tried to learn guitar a few times, and I always am terrible at it. It's because I've got like tiny, tiny hands, so I can never reach it.
Well, one of the best things I found is if you just tune the bottom string to D, so the bottom 3 strings are D, A, D, gives you a power chord, and that's basically the sound of metal. So you just put your hand on anywhere along the fretboard, right, on those 3 strings, and just chuck on some distortion, and you've got yourself a killer guitar sound. Like, it's fine. By far the easiest thing to do.
Nice. And Warren, what have you had some more time for anything, or hobbies, or getting back to old things?
Not really. I think I'm doing very little exercise, but more on Netflix for sure. So, and yeah,
What
the
shows?
movies. Well, quite a lot. The recent one I'm watching is the 3rd season Crown.
Oh, The Crown.
Yeah, The Crown. Yes, yeah, The Crown. Yeah, it's pretty nice. I think the 3rd season is the best one so far, I think. Yeah. So yeah, and other than that, I think I'm still pretty busy because of the coronavirus. Lots of people, they either lost of their jobs or they lost of their tenants. So yeah, as a mortgage broker, so I need to help them to defer their, say, loan repayments and other stuffs. So yeah, still pretty busy at the moment. Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine that your job is actually one of the things that's getting more and more work these days.
Yeah, that's right.
Personally, so my first degree was actually in graphic design and visual art, and my first job out of uni was actually as an illustrator. So I've come a weird path to be working here. So I've gone back to doing some illustration work. Eventually, I should possibly maybe put them up on Etsy and sell some stuff.
Yes, or show us on another episode. Or
I can put them up on the screen now if you want, like when I can put a couple up on the screen. But yeah, that's been really nice to get back to that, and also doing a lot of cooking. I really like cooking. So yeah, it's been good because my job is very hectic. Generally going around the country and having a lot more home time now, which is nice, getting some stuff done. So going back to what's going on in the world right now, does anyone here have any thoughts on which world leader that you think has handled this crisis the best? So we'll start with you, Warren.
I think Taiwan is definitely doing the best. They are so close to China, and so far they have relatively very few cases, confirmed cases, and very low death rate. So yeah, so far I think Taiwan is doing the best, and not a large a lockdown in Taiwan. So I think they are doing well.
And Luca, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with Taiwan. I think it's rather interesting though, just watching the news, how with Trump there's been all this talk of he should have started the lockdown earlier, and we wouldn't have as many deaths in New York, because New York now has like half of all deaths in America from coronavirus or something. Like, it's nuts. And it's just really interesting because if you look at what the media is saying, they're saying, he should have set up a lockdown a couple of months ago. That would have been right in the middle of his impeachment hearings, right? So can you imagine the absolute uproar if during his impeachment hearings he disbanded Congress and said, "Sorry guys, there's this coronavirus," at the same time that the media was saying, it's just a cold, you'll be right? If he had done that, the absolute uproar, this is the end of democracy, this is this is totalitarianism, we need to impeach Trump. If he had done what the media is suggesting he do now, he would have been absolutely skinned alive in the public forums. And so it just shows you can never win.
I totally agree, Luca. And I also noticed I've been watching a lot more of Trump's press conferences lately. And you can go back to the ones at the beginning and they're like, you're doing the lockdown too early. Everyone's like, why are you doing lockdown? Then when he does the lockdown, you didn't do it early enough. Yeah, and then I did a comparison between his press conferences and some of Obama's, and it couldn't be more chalk and cheese. You go back to Obama's press conferences and they're like, hello, Mr. President. I just read
sign my autograph. Please give me
I just read your wife's amazing book, and I would like to know how you're going to explain your presidency to your daughter. It's just it's the most softball questions ever, while Trump is just getting hailed on with all these. It's a cross-examination. And the only person who would be able to handle it is Trump, because he's got that New Yorker attitude. So sometimes he just goes enough.
Yeah, all the time. It's just this is disrespectful.
So, Kyle, what are your thoughts on how world leaders have handled this?
Oh, well, I was just going to say, when it comes to Trump with that, I do see your point that he would have been pilloried in the media had he done something in November or in December, when, off the top of my head, the first intelligence reports were starting to come in that coronavirus was way more significant than the World Health Organization was led on. But surely Trump still has a responsibility, if he realizes that, to do something about it. In 2016, he was running as a candidate who was going to drain the swamp. He was going to do things that the political establishment would not, that was for the betterment of the US. Whereas on one hand, I do agree that he would have been pillory forward. He still has a responsibility. And I think that's a huge failure to not do anything about that if he knew.
I don't know. There wasn't a single American case till the end of January.
Not till the end of January, but from my understanding, there were some reports that were starting to come in November that there was human-to-human transmission, that it was a significant virus compared to what China was letting on and compared to what the World Health Organization was saying. And there's plenty of blame to go at the World Health Organization, and there's plenty of blame to go at China for this. But at a certain point in time, you've also got to question the US response to this. If you had that intelligence, why was that ignored?
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Why did they take it so late? With that said, I think the US has been very middle of the road in how they've dealt with this. I don't think they've been the worst by far. I think the best, I would say off the top of my head, I would agree with Warren and say it was Taiwan and Tsai Ing-wen. I think the UK will probably be the worst one that we hear about when you look at how slow the NHS and Public Health England were to expand our testing, which was probably a thing Taiwan did very well, and it was a thing South Korea did very well. They locked down early and they tested very early.
Yeah, I think there were some interesting points there, Kyle. And Laura, what are your thoughts on all this?
Yeah, I'll have to agree with everyone here. I'd say Taiwan is probably by far, just given their circumstances, being so close to China. I think they've had fewer than 400 confirmed cases. I think that was the number, which is just extraordinary. So I think they've probably handled the best, just given their position and circumstances. Also, Trump, like it's you see what he's doing. You see what he's saying every single day. He's tackling these big issues that are coming both from the nation, the government, but also the media. And I think he's just smashing it. I think he is the really strong leader that the people need right now, because it is a crisis, especially in the US, and people are just so uncertain. They're uncertain about when things are going to reopen. They're worried about their own safety, how they're going to manage the inevitable increase in cases. And Trump is just, he never wavers. He says everything with certainty. And that's just something, he's providing stability and security, which is, I think, what the people of the United States need right now. So I think he's doing a really good job. Yeah.
So to the end of this show today, I thought we'd play a little game of Would You Rather, but COVID edition. So first off, for everyone, would you rather have sport back, or would you rather have your bars and pubs back open to go to? First off with Laura.
Bars and pubs. I don't sport. I don't do that kind of stuff. I'll watch it on YouTube, but so bars and pubs, just where there's people and we can all interact and we're all just having fun. I miss that.
Yeah, Generation Liberty drinks and meeting
exactly.
up with people. Yeah. Kyle, sport or pubs?
Sport back means gym back, and I really miss the gym, so it's sport by length of Flemington straight.
And Luca?
Oh no, look, I'm gonna have to go with the pubs on this one. Miss going down and having a couple of bevies with the boys, but hopefully they come back first. Hopefully.
And Warren, what would you prefer to have back? Your sport or pubs?
Yeah, pubs, I believe.
And okay, so it seems that pubs has won that battle. I think a lot of people at the IPA would disagree with that decision, but we'll see. It would split the room. I think it would split the IPA. So would you rather be back at university, on campus going to classes, or would you rather have, say, if any of you had a casual job that you used to have, would you rather be back at that casual job? So Kyle?
University.
And Laura?
Uni.
Is there any reason you prefer to go back to uni? Is it just you miss your friends?
I just miss my friends. Zoom is great and it's fun having tutorials. Is it fun having tutorials? I don't know, but I just miss walking past people and just saying hi or meeting up with people in for coffee on campus. It's really nice.
I've been hearing that Zoom tutorials are incredibly awkward.
Oh, they are so awkward. Half of people don't even turn on I say half. I don't turn on my camera or my microphone. I sit on my bed and I wrap myself up in a blanket and just make this end. It's so awkward.
Because I can sympathize with my husband was a tutor. It's like the hardest thing is getting people to answer and to talk. And part of your power to get people to do that is by staring them in the eye and being like, hey, answer the question. But when there's no face-to-face, I'm guessing people just don't answer. Yeah. And Luca?
Oh, well, I've actually got one of the funniest things is my property law tutor. She was like, nah, I don't care if you guys are feeling anxious or whatever. I don't care. Everyone, microphones unmuted, cameras on. We're running this like a normal tutorial. You're all going to talk, and I'm going to stare you in the face until you talk. And she's like a drill sergeant. It was absolutely fair. And everyone was just like snap, 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 answering questions because she was like, I'm not having any of this. No one told me. She's like, if you guys don't talk, you're not going to get an answer out of me. We're just going to sit here and do nothing. Right? So everyone's just been like snapping up those questions because she was just like, drill sergeant, you guys are going to have to absolutely gun for it. But in terms of uni, I'm pretty lucky because my job was able to transfer online because tutoring. So that's okay. So yeah, definitely going back. I'd have to agree with Laura, just going back on campus, being able to meet up with people. If anyone from Monash is watching, jumbo chips from Neptune's, fish and chips, so good. So good. Get a box of those and share it with everyone.
And Warren, you're not at university anymore.
Yeah, that's right.
And you do normally work from home. But do you think back in your uni days, what do you think you would have missed more, uni or work?
Well, I think back in the uni days, I think I agree with all of us, and I prefer sit in the classroom instead of just in front of the computer. And I think especially for international students, there's no meaning to sit in front of the computer to learn in a foreign country, right? So yeah.
Okay, and our last would you rather is would you rather be able to go back to your local cafe and restaurant and have a meal there, or would you like to be able to go to the movies, go to concerts, go to entertainment again? So Laura?
Definitely restaurant cafe, but that's not because I prefer restaurants and cafes over like movies and concerts, but I've actually so much more enjoyed watching movies at home from the comfort of my own bed and just, like watching Netflix and having all that instead of having to go out and sit in a cold theater. So I like that very much. So I'd much rather have the restaurants open again so everything else can kind of just stay at home. That'd be really nice.
And Kyle, what would you prefer, restaurants or entertainment and cinemas?
Entertainment, concerts, cinemas, all that sort of stuff.
Cool. Any particular reason for that?
Well, I don't know. I was never really a huge cafe person. I've had to meet up with someone, I'd go to them. But if I want a good time, I'm going to go see a concert. So I can have coffee from the comfort of my own home. I can't go out and see a concert at home.
Good point. And Luca?
Yeah, I'm going to have to go with movies and concerts as well because while Laura, it's nice to be able to watch a movie on your tiny little laptop screen. There are some movies that you just need to experience on the big screen. I'm sorry. It's just like, your movies like Apocalypse Now or The Shining or something like that. Watching it on a little laptop isn't going to give you the full experience, I don't think. I reckon going to somewhere like the Astor, which is, 2-story screen, definitely a whole experience in and of itself. And just being able, like concerts, even maybe not necessarily concerts, but I miss like being able to go around to small gigs and stuff that are usually up and around here because there are normally some really cool bands that are playing and stuff like that. So I do definitely miss that aspect as well.
Yeah, you're a real movie buff, aren't you, Luca? I found that out when you were in the office as an intern.
Don't get me started about movies.
Talking movies. Actually, I have to tell you. Have you watched Doctor Sleep yet? The Shining sequel?
No, I'm still a bit worried. Are you sure? Because
it's really good.
I'm a bit iffy because I read the book and I was like, but it's really good. It's the same person who did Haunting of Hill House on Netflix, so it's a good director. I've seen a couple of episodes of that, so that'll be.
And Ewan McGregor's really good.
That's good.
Not as good as The Shining, but that's like nothing's going to be as good as the best horror film ever.
Because I'm just worried, The Shining set up so much ambiguity, and that's why people are still talking about it. 50 or more years later, people are still talking about it because it's so ambiguous. And I was worried Doctor Sleep was just going to kind of ruin that. But if you recommend it, I'll give it a watch.
Okay. Well, next time you're on, I'll ask you what you thought.
Sounds good. That's my homework.
And Warren, what would you prefer, to have your cinemas back, or would you prefer to have restaurants and cafes?
For me, I think restaurant and cafes is more important than the others because it's more genuine face-to-face connections would be back. So it's not just on the phone or on Zoom. It's totally different.
Yeah, I can understand that. And also it must be nice for you and the wife and the baby to go to a cafe and share a meal. Go outside. Actually, so we're coming towards the end of the show. But Luca, funny that you mentioned Apocalypse Now, because many of you may have heard that Generation Liberty has started a new book club. It's really exciting. And our first book is The Heart of Darkness, which is what inspired or created Apocalypse Now. So anyone listening, I highly encourage you to go check out the Generation Liberty website, generationliberty.org.au, or go to our Instagram to find out more about that book club and get involved. We've got some great classics there. And from you, anyone here read it? Luca, you've read Heart of Darkness. What are your thoughts, and why would you encourage people to read it?
I sure have. Look, I'm not gonna pretend as if I know all of the themes behind it. It is definitely a very deep psychological study into the nature of human evil, and that is scary in and of itself. I'm not going to pretend as if I understand every aspect of it, though. But in terms of just like Joseph Conrad only learned, I'm pretty sure he was Polish, but he only learned English when he was 18, right? And yet his command of the language in the novel is absolutely insane. And you can tell as well that there's an authenticity to it because he spent time in Africa on riverboats himself. And there's an authenticity to the story that he's telling, and the way he's able to weave the themes into it is just mind-boggling. I'm kind of nerding out here, but gotta get onto it. Heart of Darkness is top notch.
So I hope everyone listening goes and checks that out. I think Book Club is going to be a really exciting new program and a new part of Generation Liberty. I don't think that enough universities are putting classics into their curriculum right now. But, you can complain about things, or you can actually go and do something and try and get those classics out your own way. But thank you, everyone, for coming onto the show and sharing your thoughts. Thank you, Kyle.
Happy to be here.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you.
Thank you, Luca.
Thanks for having me.
And of course, thank you to our special guest, Warren. So if you are not a member of Generation Liberty, please go to generationliberty.org.au today and join for only $10. You will get a huge bag of merch, probably worth more than $10, and you will get all updates on shows like this and all the other content that we will be putting out during this time. Also follow us on Instagram and Facebook. And if you have any suggestions for the show, any topics you want us to cover, anything that you want us to talk about, just let us know. You can contact the Generation Liberty Facebook page, or you can email me directly at Renee Gorman at ipa.org.au. This show is for Generation Liberty, so we want to hear your thoughts. But for now, stay safe, stay happy, and stay free. Bye.